There comes a moment in every person's life when they grow tired of carrying the silent weight of lack of opportunity, lack of resources, lack of confidence, lack of clarity, lack of direction, lack of support, and often lack of hope. Poverty is not only an empty wallet, it is an empty spirit. It is a condition that steals a person's inner voice, making them feel unworthy of abundance, unworthy of breakthrough, and unworthy of miracles. It convinces people to believe that their circumstances define their future, that their past predicts their destiny, and that their limitations are permanent. But in reality, poverty is not a financial condition, it is a spiritual condition, and anything spiritual can be broken, dissolved, and replaced in an instant when you connect to divine truth. There is a psalm that carries the vibration of breakthrough, the energy of abundance, and the power to shatter the invisible chains that hold people captive. This psalm is not simply a prayer, it is a spiritual weapon, a declaration of authority, and a reminder of the limitless nature of God's provision. When spoken with belief, it begins to rearrange the atmosphere around you. It quiets the storm inside your mind. It lifts you out of despair and awakens the part of you that was born to rise. For centuries, people have recited this psalm in moments of desperation, uncertainty, and struggle, and they have watched doors open that were once sealed. They witnessed miracles that logic cannot explain. They saw their lives transform not over years, but in days, sometimes in mere hours. This one psalm destroys the spirit of poverty in just 24 hours because it carries a truth that poverty cannot survive. Poverty thrives only where fear lives, where doubt grows, and where faith has been weakened. But when you speak this psalm, when you let its words become your heartbeat, you ignite a fire inside yourself that poverty cannot coexist with. You awaken confidence, you awaken clarity, you awaken hope, and most importantly, you awaken the belief that you are supported by something greater, something divine, something infinitely abundant. People often misunderstand the nature of abundance. They think prosperity begins with money, connections, or opportunities. But prosperity begins within. A person with a wealthy mind can rebuild after any setback. A person with a wealthy spirit can walk through any valley and emerge with strength. A person with a wealthy belief system can turn obstacles into stepping stones. So when this psalm enters your life, it does not only command external change, it commands internal change. It rewrites the inner script that whispers, "You can't." It dismantles the invisible walls built by childhood struggles, family limitations, or generational patterns. It silences the voice of scarcity that says you will always struggle, always fall behind, or always lack. The moment you recite this psalm, you begin to tell your mind a new story, one of abundance, divine support, protection, and purpose. Your spirit remembers who you are, a creation designed for more than survival. You were created for growth, for elevation, for expansion. You were created to step into opportunities, to build something meaningful, to rise above limitation. Poverty tries to shrink your vision, but this psalm expands it. Poverty tries to convince you that you are alone, but this psalm reminds you that heaven walks beside you. Poverty tries to convince you that you are powerless, but this psalm restores your authority. When you speak it, something shifts, not only in the unseen world, but inside your mind. Your thinking becomes clearer, your energy becomes higher, your decisions become bolder, your actions become more aligned, and suddenly things start happening. A message appears at just the right time. A person reaches out unexpectedly. A new idea flows into your mind. A path becomes visible where nothing existed before, and you realize that abundance is not forced, it is allowed. It enters your life when you remove the inner barriers that once blocked it. In those moments of speaking the psalm, you step into a partnership with the divine. You stop trying to survive in your own strength and begin operating through spiritual strength. That shift can change your life faster than any strategy, plan, or calculation because spirit moves quicker than time. Spirit rearranges circumstances before they reach your eyes. Spirit aligns opportunities before you even know you need them. Spirit brings you favor that no person could have opened for you. So when you recite this psalm, you are not simply praying, You are activating spiritual laws that elevate you from lack to abundance. Poverty often feels like a shadow that follows a person everywhere, shaping their decisions, limiting their dreams, and dimming their self-image. It convinces people to settle for less than they deserve. It tells them to stop dreaming, stop trying, stop believing. But this psalm is the light that dissolves that shadow. When you speak its words, it pours divine truth into the places where fear once lived. It replaces hopelessness with expectation. It infuses your spirit with strength. And suddenly, the shadow begins to fade. There are moments in life when all you need is one spark, one shift, one breath of divine intervention to change everything. This psalm becomes that spark. It wakes something inside you, a spiritual awareness that abundance is not earned through suffering, it is received through alignment. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to escape poverty, and you begin to see yourself as someone destined for greatness. Your energy rises to a level where opportunities begin to find you instead of you chasing them. Imagine waking up with clarity instead of confusion, with confidence instead of fear, with expectation instead of worry. Imagine walking throughout your day with a sense of divine protection, knowing that everything you need is already being aligned for you. Imagine replacing days of stress with days of inspired action. This is what begins to happen when the psalm works through your spirit. In the next 24 hours, the shift begins, not because money suddenly appears, but because you change. Your mindset changes, your energy changes, your decisions change, and when you change, everything around you begins to follow. You start seeing opportunities you once overlooked. You start valuing yourself in ways you previously didn't. You start taking steps you once avoided. And with each step, the old version of you, the version shaped by poverty, fear, doubt, and insecurity, begins to fall away. Greatness does not arrive in a loud explosion, it comes in quiet moments of courage. And speaking this psalm is a moment of courage. It is you reclaiming your destiny. It is you saying, I refuse to live small. I refuse to be limited. I refuse to carry this spirit of poverty any longer. It is you declaring your freedom long before the physical evidence appears. But once you declare it, the physical evidence begins to manifest. This psalm teaches you a deeper truth. Abundance is your inheritance. Scarcity is a lie learned through experience, but abundance is your original design. It is woven into your spirit. It is embedded in your purpose. When you speak the psalm, you awaken that inheritance. You reconnect to the source of unlimited supply, the creator who never runs out, never withdraws, never limits. You align yourself with a flow that has always existed but was once blocked by fear. Fear is the root of poverty. Fear of failure, fear of trying, fear of judgment, fear of disappointment, fear of unworthiness. But faith dissolves fear, and this psalm builds faith, not the type of faith that is passive or quiet, but the type that is bold, active, and powerful. The type that allows you to rise above circumstances. The type that transforms confusion into clarity, weakness into strength, limitation into possibility. Once faith enters your spirit, poverty loses its authority. The chains break, the old patterns dissolve, the generational cycles end, and for the first time you feel free, free to dream, to grow, to expand, to succeed, free to believe that the life you desire is possible for you. This psalm becomes your turning point. Your spirit begins to expect abundance. Your mind begins to think creatively, your heart begins to trust, and every step you take moves you closer to your breakthrough. In those 24 hours after speaking the psalm, you begin to notice signs, small confirmations that change is happening, a sudden sense of peace, a thought that brings clarity, a person who inspires you, a door that cracks open. These signs are reminders that the spirit of poverty has been defeated, and the spirit of abundance has been awakened. You begin to understand that wealth is not found outside of you. It flows from within. It flows from belief, from faith, from alignment. And once you align your inner world with the truth of the psalm, your outer world transforms effortlessly. Opportunities begin to match your newfound confidence. People begin to recognize your value. Doors that were once locked open as though they had been waiting for you to arrive. This psalm does what no struggle could do. It does what no amount of overthinking or worrying could do. It brings peace to your spirit, power to your voice, strength to your steps, and abundance to your destiny. It reminds you that you are not here to survive, you are here to rise. You are not here to live in lack, you are here to flourish. You are not here to repeat the patterns of the past, you are here to create a new legacy of abundance, purpose, and prosperity. Every word of the psalm becomes a seed planted in your spirit, and seeds do not remain seeds, they grow, they bloom, they bear fruit. In the same way, the truth of this psalm begins to produce results in your life. You speak it, you believe it, and you watch your reality shift. Poverty is not strong enough to resist divine truth. Darkness cannot withstand the presence of light, and lack cannot survive in the presence of faith. This handful of verses becomes a doorway to a new life. It becomes a shield, a reminder, a declaration, and a promise. And as you speak it, something inside you awakens, a fierce, unshakable belief that abundance is not just possible, but inevitable. You begin to walk differently, think differently, and choose differently. You begin to expect miracles. And when you expect miracles, miracles appear. Within 24 hours, the transformation has already begun. You feel it, you sense it, you step into it, and you realize that poverty was never your destiny, abundance is. The psalm does not simply destroy the spirit of poverty, it awakens the spirit of prosperity. It reminds you that you are guided, protected, supported, and destined for more. And from this moment forward, you step into life with a new strength, a new mindset, and a new spirit. You rise, not slowly, not gradually, but powerfully. Because the truth has entered your spirit. And once truth enters, poverty has no place to stay. You are ready to walk into the abundance that has been waiting for you all along. If you'd like, I can also write a shorter version, a more spiritual version, a version based on a specific psalm, a version for video narration. Just tell me! This one psalm works like a spiritual key. When spoken with belief, it breaks the psychological, emotional, and spiritual chains that create a poverty mindset, replacing them with courage, clarity, and divine confidence. It does not just touch the surface of your life, it reaches into the deepest layers of your being, where old fears have lived, where generational limitations have settled, and where silent insecurities have shaped your decisions without you even realizing it. The moment its words leave your lips with genuine faith, something begins to unlock inside you. You feel the grip of fear loosen. You feel the weight of unworthiness start to lift. You feel the old narrative that once told you, you are not enough, begin to crumble. This psalm does not work through human logic. It works through spiritual alignment. It speaks directly to the places in your mind that have been trained to expect struggle, to anticipate disappointment, and to believe that scarcity is natural. It dismantles these illusions piece by piece, replacing them with a strength that rises from your spirit like a sunrise. Where there was once confusion, you begin to feel clarity. Where there was once hesitation, you begin to feel courage. Where there was once self-doubt, a new confidence begins to take root. A confidence not based on ego or effort, but on the quiet knowing that you are supported by something far greater than your circumstances. And as these inner chains fall away, your entire perspective begins to shift. You start to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You start to speak differently, walk differently, and expect differently. You begin to operate from a place of divine certainty instead of fear-driven survival. And in that shift, the poverty mindset built from years of struggle, inherited beliefs, and silent pain has no choice but to dissolve. Because the moment light enters, darkness cannot remain. The moment truth awakens, limitation loses its power. And the moment you speak this psalm with full belief, you step into a dimension of courage, clarity, and divine confidence that changes everything about the way you move through the world. If you want, I can expand the next key line too. Just tell me which one! Poverty is not just the absence of money, it is the presence of fear, doubt, limitation, and generational patterns that keep a person small. It hides in the quiet corners of the mind, shaping how a person thinks, reacts, and dreams long before it ever shows up in their bank account. It is the voice that says, "Don't try, you'll fail." It is the heaviness that whispers, "People like you don't rise." It is the invisible wall that forms from childhood experiences, societal expectations, and the struggles witnessed in the lives of those who came before you. Poverty is a mindset long before it is a circumstance. It is a belief system built on lack, on survival, on the fear of hoping for more. But when this psalm enters your spirit, something extraordinary begins to happen. It does not simply comfort you, it reprograms you. It rewrites the internal script that has been playing in your mind for years, scripts shaped by scarcity, by disappointment, by the belief that abundance belongs to others but not to you. The psalm becomes like a divine code, rewriting the neural pathways carved by fear and replacing them with pathways of faith, strength, and expectation. It teaches your mind to recognize possibility instead of limitation. It teaches your heart to trust that provision is already on its way. It teaches your spirit to walk with confidence instead of shrinking in uncertainty. Where you once expected struggle, you begin to expect solutions. Where you once anticipated setbacks, you start anticipating breakthroughs. Instead of walking with the heaviness of scarcity, always preparing for loss, always bracing for disappointment, you begin to walk with the lightness of faith. Faith that tells you you are supported. Faith that tells you you are guided. Faith that tells you you are worthy of abundance, not by chance but by design. This psalm becomes a spiritual recalibration. It shifts your inner frequency from despair to hope, from lack to plenty, from fear to boldness. It cleans out the mental clutter that kept you tied to the past and awakens a new vision for your future. A future where abundance is not a dream but a natural expectation. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as a vessel of divine possibility. And as your mind shifts, your life follows. For no one can rise above the limitations of a poverty mindset, but once that mindset is broken, once it is replaced with faith and divine alignment, there is no height you cannot reach. If you'd like, I can expand the third key line as well. When a person aligns their thoughts, emotions, and actions with the divine truth expressed in this psalm, their environment shifts, opportunities appear, and the energy of lack dissolves. Alignment is not merely reading the words. It is allowing them to enter your mind, settle into your heart, and guide your steps. It is the moment your internal world syncs with divine reality instead of human limitation. When your thoughts begin to reflect faith instead of fear, when your emotions begin to reflect gratitude instead of anxiety, and when your actions begin to reflect courage instead of hesitation, something miraculous happens. Your external world rearranges to match that inner transformation. Most people spend their lives trying to change their circumstances, while their internal patterns remain unchanged. They push, struggle, force, and exhaust themselves trying to create breakthroughs through effort alone. But the psalm teaches you a different principle. Change begins within. The moment your inner vibration shifts, your outer reality responds. Suddenly, people who never noticed you begin to see your value. Doors that once felt sealed begin to crack open. Solutions that seemed impossible start revealing themselves. The world around you starts to reorganize in your favor because your spirit is finally aligned with abundance instead of lack. In this alignment, opportunities that were invisible to you before become clear. The intuition that was once faint becomes loud. The ideas that were once scattered become focused. You start taking inspired actions instead of desperate ones. You begin to move with divine timing rather than rushing in fear. And because your energy is aligned with faith, you naturally attract experiences that match that frequency. The psalm becomes a spiritual magnet that pulls blessings, favor, and provision toward you. And this is why what once took years can transform within a single day. Faith compresses time. Alignment multiplies momentum. When your spirit matches the frequency of divine truth, delays dissolve. Resistance weakens. Blockages break. What seems stuck suddenly becomes fluid. People call it a miracle, but in reality, it is a shift in spiritual alignment. Because the moment you stop fighting from a place of fear and begin moving from a place of faith, everything accelerates. Destiny responds to belief. Divine timing responds to surrender. Abundance responds to expectation. And when the truth of this psalm becomes rooted in your heart, you stop living in survival mode and step into a flow where blessings meet you faster than you ever imagined. Faith does not just guide you, it elevates you. It accelerates you. It carries you into a future that is bigger, quicker, and more abundant than anything your past could have predicted. If you'd like, I can now blend all expanded parts into your full speech seamlessly,